HKIR on Sunday is the final major racing carnival of the calendar year, and with winners from Japan, Dubai, UK, Ireland, France, Turkey, Canada and the USA, and of course Hong Kong, representing some of the very best international form lines. This is the Turf World Championships for 2017.
Prepared, I'm very confident and I can't wait until we get to the day.
Highland Reel, Aidan O'Brien, his first victory in the Hong Kong bars, and Highland Reel defeats the defending champion. Mr. Stunning charged away, amazing kids into second, DB Pin and Penophobia, oh he's good Mr. Stunning. Beauty Only just in front, Joyful Trinity, Elaine Paragon, it's Beauty Only's mile.
You know, they're never easy races to win, and you know, it's a great deal of satisfaction when you're able to do so. We work very hard every day, and it's all for sort of this time of year when these big races come around.
Werther edging clear, and class will prevail.
Returning heroes and emerging stars, and that's just the panel we've got lined up for our HKR special. A very warm welcome. I'm Andrew Lejeune, and I'm joined here by Graham Cunningham, Kevin Blake and Kate Hunter. And Kate, first, from America, but you now call Japan home. We're in a post-Morris era. What have you got for us this year?
Well, I think with the departure of Morris, who's having a very popular first year at stud in both Japan and Australia, I think we're going to see, you know, the gap filled, but I don't know if we're going to see necessarily that kind of dominance. Yeah. We've got, you know, in the Cup, I'd say, you know, Mr. Horry's back again, and he obviously loves Hong Kong, and he obviously knows how to win here. So Neorealism's back. He's already won a Group 1 here in Hong Kong before, so he's probably primed and ready to do it again. But he's going to have to contend with Smart Layer, who's also locked and loaded, I think, with Takeya Yutaka on board.
All right. Well, we'll get into them in a bit more detail as we go throughout the course of the show. Kevin, great to have you back again. You're going to be taking care of Europe for us, and Aidan O'Brien sits on 27 Group or Grade 1s for the season. Could he make it one or maybe two more?
He definitely could. He's had a phenomenal season, and he arrives to Hong Kong, I think, with his strongest team ever. 5 runners is what he's ended up with. And you know, he's been coming here for quite a long time. 2001 was his first runner. Only the one winner to show for it, from 11 I think in total. Highland Reel won the Vase 2 years ago, and he finished an agonising runner-up last season, and he's back again on what will be his retirement race to try and make it a second win in the race, you know. And he'd be a fully appropriate winner, I think. He's been a wonderful horse, a wonderful advertisement for Irish racing, for Aidan O'Brien, for European racing in all his travels over the years. And I think he's Aidan's leading hope, but he's not the sole hope. I think he's got 1 or 2 others that we'll discuss in a bit more detail that could be in a shake-up as well.
All right, and Graham, very much part of the touring party last year, but this year, part of the home team.
Yeah, a foot in each camp perhaps. Great to be here, Andrew, but I think Hong Kong, very strong in the sprint, pretty strong in the mile, strong with Werther in the Cup. The Vase perhaps trickier, but I'd be disappointed if Hong Kong didn't keep at least a couple of prizes at home.
All right, well, 4 Group 1s to get through, so we'll start off with the Vase, of course. 2,400 metres the trip, and Highland Reel heads them, and a returning champion. He won it back 2 years ago, only just touched off last year. Talismanic beat him in the Breeders' Cup Turf last time out. Tiberian coming off a run in the Melbourne Cup. Chemical Charge and Danehill Kodiak, both Group 3 winners from the UK. Eagle Way for the home team. Max Dynamite's at 3rd in the Melbourne Cup. Toss and Basil had Joe Moreira on board. Goldmouth for the home team as well. A Royal Ascot, though, winner in his past. Smart Call, an interesting runner, South Africa via the UK. And Kaseki, of course, a St. Leger winner from Japan. Well, let's start by looking back on last year's race. Highland Reel couldn't quite pull off back-to-back victories. It was Sotono Crown in a thriller, which completed a clean sweep for Joe Moreira in the HKIR races.
Obviously, I knew his previous runs were not outstanding, but he had excuses, like in some races he was a little bit too far back, in others he was too keen and up there on the pace. We just had to find a balance where we could get him to relax, but not being too far on the field. And the race itself was just fantastic.
This fellow is a bit wintry in his coat at the moment. He does walk out nice and freely. He's a little bit tense and he has started to sweat up just marginally behind as well, but he does look really quite fit.
Highland Reel now coming up. Satono Crown still out, so the favourite secured. Stand by for a start. Longines, Hong Kong Vase 2016. The gates are open and they're off and racing. Highland Reel jumped away perfectly. Nearer the inside, Eastern Express away fast, along with Anticipation. They're in the back, 1,300 metres to go, and Highland Reel has the lead. He got a little bit of pressure there from Big Orange, who quickly whipped around them and goes up into second. Eastern Express holding a good spot third. So too is Helene Happy Star, followed by Silver Wave, who hasn't spent a penny. Deeper out on the track then, as they work towards the 1,000 metres, is Anticipation with Smart Layup. Then a length to Satono Crown on the inside of Flame Hero.
150 metres before we straightened up, I had a horse dropping back in front of me, which dragged me farther back than where I wanted to be, turning for home. So made my horse having to make it very tough.
Ryan Moore turns up the heat now, and Highland Reel dashed away. Eastern Express trying to stick on. Helene Happy Star, Satono Crown coming out of the pack.
I had a full-on horse underneath, really dashing home, and I knew the pace was quite genuine halfway through. So I would say 350 metres I knew I was going to win.
Highland Reel in full flight. There's only one danger. It's the Japanese charger, Satono Crown. He's got 3 to make up. Highland Reel kept going. Satono Crown is lifting. Satono Crown is cutting down Highland Reel, and he'll take the vase. Japan conquer. Satono Crown from Highland Reel. They're 8 lengths in front of the rest.
I was very, very delighted on winning on him, as was my 4th international race in Hong Kong. I mean, making the all 4, and that was one of the highlights race of my career for sure.
Well, when he shot clear at the top of the straight, Kevin, I thought it was all over. Probably plenty of other people did as well, but he was cut down. This is the swan song. Can he do it?
I think he can. You know, it was agonising last year now, and you know, Ryan Moore doesn't make many mistakes, but I'd say if he had the opportunity to ride it again, he would have held onto his hand just a little bit longer than he did. But he was beaten by a very good horse on the day. But he arrives here. I think the real key for me with him in assessing his chance on Sunday is that he arrives here quite a fresher horse than he has in the past. You know, this would be his 4th run since Royal Ascot last season. It was his 6th. You know, he had a near 3-month gap in the middle of the season this time round. They had to run him at Ascot on British Champions Day, so Aidan says, to have him some bit right for the Breeders' Cup. You know, the ground was totally unsuitable at Ascot. He ran fine, went to the Breeders' Cup, ran better, but fine again. I don't think he was at his peak there. Talismanic very much had the run of the race that day. So I'd like to think that with his form pattern that he might just hit his peak here. And we know he loves it around here. The ground is going to be in his favour, unless the weather changes its mind big time in the next few days, which I don't think it is.
Fine with that.
So his draw could have been a little bit lower if one wanted to be really picky, but he's going to go forward. He doesn't have to lead, and you know, he sets the standard, and he's surely going to make a very, very bold bid from the front end.
All right. If Joe Moreira is going to do what he did last year, Kate, Toss and Basil is his mount. Would it be fair to say, though, that he'd be the 2nd string of the Japanese horses?
I think if you look at his record, it looks fairly disappointing, but he's a very talented horse who pretty much has an excuse in every race. Very wide draws, or some trouble, or some other horses getting in his way. And the fact that Moreira chose to ride him and rode him this morning on his fast work, which was quite a stunner, and he just was glowing about Toss and Basil after he rode it. So I think that if there's going to be a Satono Crown again, it's going to be Toss and Basil.
Kiseki, though, there seems to be a bit of a buzz about this horse. Still a 3-year-old. It's a brutal run, wasn't it, though, last time in the
It was a
Ledger?
very brutal run, so I'm not quite sure how well he's going to do in that regard, because it was a really tough race. It had been raining for weeks in Japan. The ground was miserable. It was a great run, but at the same time, will he still have enough in him? He's up against older horses for the first time, which I think might add to some of the difficulty. It'll be his first time meeting horses like Highland Reel. So I think next year he might be better, but he's definitely here to actually try and do it. So right. Sumi, the trainer Sumi, would not have brought him over if he didn't think he had a chance.
Yeah, the home team, Graham, Gold Mountain, Lane Charisma, very quirky. Are they playing for minor roles?
Gold Mount could run well. He seems to be still on the improve. The first point to make here is that this is the final act in a tremendous career for Highland Reel. I can't ever think of a high-quality horse who's made 22 foreign trips. I feel as if I've spent the last 3 years of my life following this horse around the world. He's followed me to Hong Kong. I was about to desert him and go with Kaseki, and then I saw him blow up the lane this morning, and I thought, Graham, keep it simple. This horse has 6, 7, 8 pieces of form, 8 performances which give him the winning of this race. He beat Flincher decisively in this race 2 years ago. Last year's performance, albeit in defeat, is probably good enough. And I think Aidan will have him primed and ready to go. I think Goldmount can run well for Hong Kong, perhaps stay on into a place, but Highland Reel's been a mighty horse, and it would be perhaps the story of the weekend if he can bow out with another win.
Yeah, absolutely. But Talismanic did beat him in America, Kevin, the Breeders' Cup, turf, and he's looked good this week too.
He has, and I think with him, ground is the key. He doesn't always get the chance to run in his favourite conditions in France. Real quick ground seems to have suited him, and there was no fluke about what he did in America. He did have a beautiful run through the race, but he still has to be good enough to go and capitalise, and he duly did. So I feel he's perhaps a little bit underestimated coming in here, because obviously the focus is on Highland Reel. He's a big horse worldwide, and when you get a slightly unexpected result, as we did in America, people want to believe that it was a fluke, but the evidence suggests that it wasn't a fluke. The hope is that Highland Reel will strip in better condition here, and he might, it wasn't like he had a poor passage through in America at all. He had a perfectly fine passage.
All right, decision time then, guys. Graham, you can go first.
Highland Reel, Kaseki. I do want to put in a good word for Tiberian, who was out of the frame in the Melbourne Cup, but I think Olivier Pellier made a very, very optimistic, wide move. He's got something to find with Max Dynamite. I think he can find it. I think he's the one at a biggish price you can stick in Quinellas and Trios.
And Kevin, it seems like you're sticking with the home team?
Yeah,
I say home team, the Irish team.
I'm on a similar road to Graham in a slightly different order. I'm Highland Reel on top, followed by Talismanic, followed by Kaseki and Tiberian, because we shouldn't forget Tiberian beat Talismanic twice earlier this season, albeit in much softer conditions, but yeah, he is one that I wouldn't like to sleep on him either.
All right, and Smart Call, I think, is a very interesting runner as well for Sir Michael Stout. Kate, you're not giving us tips as such, but if you had to, between the Japanese horses, who do you think is more prepared for the day?
I'm the oddball out here. I'm going to St. Basil. I think that given the fact that Moreira is on him and he's got a good draw, and the conditioner knows Hong Kong very, very well, I think this is going to be a very good year for the Fujiwara stables.
All right, well, that tells us plenty in itself. So Toss and Basil for Kate there. So that's the Hong Kong Vase. Looks like that might be heading overseas. Next up, though, is the sprints, and the home team is very strong.